start recording at this time. Welcome everybody to Wealth Wednesdays. This is Demetris Curry. I am your host here for Wealth Wednesdays, and we are brought by Inspired for Greatness LLC. So it is a blessing to be here amongst all of you here today. Welcome everyone that's coming in right now. Be fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, we are excited about Wealth Wednesdays. This is the second segment. So if you missed the first segment, I will have some information on our presentation to make sure you know exactly where to go to get that recap for anything that you may have missed, okay? All right, we're gonna go ahead and start sharing some screens here. And I want to show the presentation, and then we're gonna go from here, okay? And I wanna make sure everyone can see my screen. Can someone give me a thumbs up? Let me know they can see my screen, the preview screen. Okay. All right. Here we go. Can you see that screen there? Wonderful. All right, so it looks like everyone can see the screen from what I can tell. And one of the things we want to start off talking about is what we spoke on last week. And so you have some more people that's dropping in. Let me make sure I get them in at this moment. All right. So we are sharing the screen here. I want to be able to show you a few things. And we want to talk about testimonials. We're talking about our relationship here with money, okay? The relationship that we have with money. And it's going to be important that we talk about where that all stems from, okay? And one of the things that's very important here is looking at where it all began for you, okay? So if we are looking at today, starting with the Wealth Wednesday, I have had the opportunity to have some information from all of you. Most of you have sent me some information outside of this particular event to say, hey, these are the questions that I have. This is my relationship with money. These are the complications that I've been running into. So I want to say thank you in advance for doing that and helping me get a true understanding of where everyone is in their relationship with money. And I'm going to tell you exactly where mine stemmed from and how I got to where I am today, working with finances and working with retirements, and also helping people make some good decisions about their risk and their loss assessments, okay? This is one of the things that's going to be vitally important that we talk about today, because in this economic situation that we're currently in, things have drastically changed. And so let's start getting into it real quick. And let's start here on the beginning. Now, I started off in the area of finance a long time ago, very long time ago, but I wanted to understand how to start being in control of my money, all right? How to be in control of my money. And so I just want to start there and tell you what it all stemmed from. And then we're going to also talk about some disclaimers, okay? So first and foremost, if you can see the disclaimer here on the screen, I want to also let you know that this particular policy and everything we're going to talk about tonight is recorded, is a recorded conversation, and it may appear in social media and some platforms. So if you are doing a Q&A with me at the end of this conversation, just keep in mind that it may also have some very personal questions that you want to present. Be mindful of those personal questions and see if you're okay with that. If you're not okay with them knowing some of your personal information, feel free to contact me outside of this particular platform via the office or either on my phone line, or you can also send me via messages and texts, okay? But it's very important that you are aware of that, so we want to make sure we put that disclaimer out there. Last week, we talked about currency, we talked about money, how to choose the right savings account and for your family. And then we also worked on 401k rollovers, finding out what was the protective parts of 401ks. We also talked about your risk assessment, risk loss, what your thoughts were in controlling your risk, and exactly what you needed to do to make sure that you didn't have too much risk. Okay, that was important too. So we did talk about that as well. And we want to make sure that if you missed that particular segment, make sure that you go to our YouTube channel and listen to that segment. Very, very important that you actually get a chance to do that, because it has so much information out there that's going to be vitally important for you. Okay, very important for you. So let me go back to this screen here, and I want to make sure that you are seeing this particular side of the screen. And here we go. There. So here is some of the information that you can go to as far as where our platforms are, our website, our LinkedIn. You can go to LinkedIn under Call D Curry and also connect with me there. But if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see some of those recordings, okay? And so I want to go ahead and start off really quickly in the healthy choices of relationship money. A lot of times people are thinking about food, they're thinking about their exercise, they're thinking about consumption of health when they think about the relationship of having a healthy lifestyle. But it's not just that, it's also your relationship with money and keeping it a very personal, making sure you nurture that relationship. How you get there is so important to where you're going to be going in later on in life, in your retirement years, and what you want to do in the times as you're ready to get rid of, your jobs and maybe have children and possibly get married and have grandchildren. All of those things are so important so you to understand what your relationship is with money. So I wanted to first off talk to you about some of the things that I've learned over the years of being in the finance industry for over 25 years. It is amazing to see that some of the things that we as people go through when it comes to relationship with money really stems back to where we were many, many years ago, growing up, our backgrounds with our families, with our parents, maybe with other siblings, even with seeing other tragedies in other people's lives and how it has impacted who we are today and how we handle our money. It's amazing to see that, because there are so many different things along the way that can alter your thinking process of what you do with your money, how you manage it, how you budget it, the consumption of having it again in the future, and if you're able to even grasp the ideas of how to grow your money and how to protect your money. Those things are so important here. So it's not just about having a healthy money relationship. It's also about what you need to do to put things in place for yourself so that not only you will be okay, but for your family and for your legacy to also be okay. So I want to touch on a few items here that's really important. And one of the areas is about scripts. And I know that we as people, we tend to not realize that there is scripts out here in our lives. There are scripts in our lives that has happened in our lives that we did not realize. Some of these studies over the years has said that, most of the things that have happened in our financial wellness and financial health goes all the way back to, our families, histories, and parental attitudes, and our direct experiences. And I'm going to share with you my experience and how it started for me at the young age of 6. And you're not going to probably believe, how much of that day I remember, but I remember so much of it that it truly impacted my first thoughts about money. And so we'll talk more about that, but let's talk about scripts. In scripts are those things that you may have heard when you were a child. Possibly money is unimportant, or, rich people are somewhat greedy, or I don't need all of that in my life. If you've heard people say, I don't need all of that, right? Those kind of things, right? Because they are in this mindset themselves about the relationship that they have with money. And you as a child, or maybe someone that's growing up a young adult, have heard these type of scripts from people and don't realize that it's embedded into your life, that is truly, truly embedded into your life. So I want to talk to you about a testimony for myself. And when I was 6 years old, my mother had a friend that was very sweet, very sweet. Hadn't seen her in many years. And I told my mom, I said, hey, I need to know how everyone is doing. How's everyone, being right now? Is everybody okay? Right? Well, at the age of 6, one night, I was not able to sleep and I heard a noise. Didn't know what the noise was, but the lights was more important. In the middle of the night, you hear sirens going, and didn't realize what the sirens were for at the time. Didn't realize what the sirens was for, but I did realize that something was wrong. And my mom had a friend across the street from us, and I lived in Detroit at the time. And if you ever been to Detroit, you know that those homes are very, very close and perimeter to each other. They're very close. And so we would always go outside with our neighbor, always go out with our friend. And my mom's friend would always make these cookies for us. She was, African American woman, very sweet. She loved on the kids in the neighborhood, and she would always make these cookies for the children. And my brother was 2 years younger than me, and she had a son that was close to my age at the age of 6. Well, I remember the times that she babysit me. And during those times, I remember her making us cookies and showing us things and Play-Doh. And, I was a little girl, so I loved the little dolls and the little toys. And so I would always love to go over to her house just to get the cookies, right? But for one night, I could not sleep. And the sirens was going outside. And here I am in my bed, middle of the night, pitch black, and you see the blue and red light special outside the windows, just shining really bright, just shining really bright. And so me, as a 6-year-old, not knowing what's going on, I decide that I'm going to get up, try to look out of my window. And at the time, I was so small, of course, I was so tiny. I'm standing on my bed trying to look out the window and couldn't really see anything because the window was on the side of the house and they were in front of the house. But it was enough for me to understand that the blue lights and the red lights were the police. And I said, okay, what's going on? I didn't understand what's going on. So I'm standing up in the bed and I'm looking and I'm looking. I'm trying to look around the window and I'm trying to look out the window. And I hear my mom starts to cry. Didn't know what she was crying about. But that night, the lady that used to babysit me and, used to make the cookies for the neighborhood, and, I knew that she was in a domestic violence situation at that young age because I could hear him say things to her like, don't spend my money. Don't you touch my money. I make the money in this house. You do what I tell you to do with the money. But that night, she died in a domestic violence situation with her husband. And it stuck with me. It embedded in my system and it stuck with me, truly. Okay. And I didn't understand why, and in my mind, I didn't understand, was it truly her passing because of that? Or was it some other reason that she passed? Did not get it, did not understand. And I said, I don't really get in my mind at the age of 6 years old. Did she spend his money? Was that why she died? Would that be me? When I get older and I want to be a mom too, and I want to be a wife too, would I get in trouble and be in fights with my husband over money? It was my first thought, very first thought as a child of my relationship with money and if it meant anything, and if money was a good thing or was it a bad thing, or would it hurt my life, or will it create chaos, or will it start issues, or would I one day be in a position where I'll have to choose to have it or not have it, or have a good relationship with someone else? That's where it all began for me. And I said, you know what? Something just ain't right. I don't understand. Something just not right. I don't understand. I need to understand why this lady passed due to something like this. I just need to know. And it was one of those things where I was like, the cookie lady is gone. She has been a friend to the family. She lived a humble life. She was kind. She was a homemaker. She didn't deserve to pass this way. But did she spend his money? Is that what happened to her? And so it was one of those things that just sort of stuck with me. And so when we were talking about, scripts and how, certain, studies show that scripts is what actually hurts you along the way, the things that you hear from your parents and hear from your colleagues and your families, and about, relationships with money, whether they like it or don't like it, if it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing. Yes, but the experiences that you encounter along the way is even more important to think about. How do you reframe your mind off of something like that, right? I want to also talk to you about what happened later in high school. So from six years old up until high school, you're learning all these things and you're seeing all these things, right? And you're starting to understand the relationship with money and how to use it and the value of money, and how to spend and how not to spend. But it was a time frame when my mother had to bury my grandfather. And he didn't have insurance. He died of cancer. And with that cancer came so much more responsibility for my mom to have to give up, certain parts of her financial freedom by cashing in, credit cards, using cash advances, all the things that, she had to do to put him away. Not put him away over the top nicely, but put him away in a nice way where he was still in a nice place. And with all of that came cashing advances on credit cards, emptying out your savings accounts, being in a position where you are completely over the top in finances. All of your stuff is being either buying Peter to pay Paul, or borrow from this person to pay that person. And it was one of those situations where I learned early in life as a young adult at that point that we can put ourselves in a position or be put into a position where it can financially hurt us tremendously because we're unaware of how we can change things and how we can set ourselves up and how we can put things in place for ourselves. And that was one of the things that really stuck with me outside of 6 years old. So this, if you listen to what I'm telling you here, I went from one side of the plateau to the complete opposite side, from being afraid of what money would do to me as an adult and learning what it was about, and if it would really hurt my relationships, if do I really want money, is it worth it, that kind of thing. Would I lose someone if I get to a fight with them about money, all the way to the point of, okay, now we're in a position in high school that my grandfather has passed. What do I do to make sure that I am not in this position? I am not using cash advances on all of my credit cards to bury my loved ones. I am not in a position to make sure that I have not used all of my savings, and then I'm working two and three jobs to make sure that my children eat. And that's exactly what my mom was doing. So because of all of those circumstances and those experiences, it molds us in our relationship that we have with money, and learning how to manage it and how to budget it and how to put our best foot forward in making sure that we are okay. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about that today, because we are in a position where we can have complete control over what we want to have happen to our money. So with that cancer came empty savings accounts, maxed out credit cards, borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul. What is in my mind at this point? There got to be more to life. And is it in my power to make sure that I am in a position from this point forward, that my clients are now in a position from this point forward to know that they have more control? And how do we do it? We have to connect the dots. We have to connect the dots to realize and to bring the unconscious to consciousness and say, this is where my first thought process started with money. Now, how do I reframe my mind? How do I redo my frame of thinking? And exactly how do I change it up and refresh all of that I've learned that wasn't right, and start having a better relationship with money? Because quite honestly, it's the one marriage that you will always have from the time that you are old enough to have your own bank account until it's time for you to go home to our Father. It's the one marriage that you will always have. So how do you nurture that relationship? You have to change the perspective. Yes, you had a past. Yes, you had tragedy in your life. Yes, you grew up in unbelievable circumstances, right? You may have even had lack in the past, but does that determine your future? Absolutely not. You were embedded with negative scripts in your life that said, you can't have this. You don't need that. Don't spend my money. All of those things that you may have come through in your life, or you may have already listened to from somebody else because of the lack mindset that they had, and they're passing it along to you. So where do you go from here? How do you change that? You have to nurture the money marriage relationship, starting with your thought process. I had to completely do a complete turnaround 180 degrees of the mind process of all the things that I have learned over the years from those people that had a thought of lack. They had a mindset of lack. And then also try to keep in mind that if you have a dream and you want abundance and you're trying to get somewhere, that it's going to take you being true to thyself, shining light on the things that may have kept you back all these years, and how to get there. Retrain the mind, connect with reputable consults, and then resources, seminars, web trainings like you're doing right now. Do the homework, form new habits, rethink all the stuff that has put you in a point that you are not liking right now. If you are in a position right now and you do not like where you are right now, one of the things that you have to do is start thinking about, where did I get this mindset from? Where did I get this from? Why am I borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul? Why am I not being able to budget my checkbook? Why am I not in a position where I'm able to have a retirement? Why have I not started a savings account? Why have I not put things aside for myself for a rainy day? Why? And there's reasons for that. Now that you know the reasons and you've tapped into that, figure out where you went wrong. Fix it. You're in a position to fix it. Nobody else is in that position but you to fix it. Yes, I see some of y'all looking these. I get these comments. I see these comments coming in here, saying that, hey, I listen. You can definitely do it. I'm going to open up the floor, And I'm going to let you guys ask some questions. I don't care how personal it is. We can talk about my experiences. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about. But I'm going to open the floor and I'm going to unmute you guys just so you can have a comment or two if you want to say something or have a question. But these are the things that's so important for us to get, especially in this economic situation here. Where we are right now in this economic climate is no joke. It's no joke. It's not to be taken lightly. And it's something that all of us have the responsibility to do for ourselves, just for ourselves. You're just taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of nobody else. You're taking care of yourself. And here's your opportunity to be able to do that. Okay? So we want to open up the floor just briefly and see if anyone has any comments or if you have any questions. And I'm going to unmute you guys. Okay? All right. Anyone have any questions or comments they would like to make at this time?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I was just saying earlier today, or maybe earlier this week, that I have so much stuff that I'm trying to do, whether it's trying to remodel my house, or I got a list of stuff that I'm trying to do, and it's like, I told myself I did not plan well. Like, over the course of the next 2 years, I should have been knocking off some stuff. And it's like, now that I'm trying to do everything, I was like, you did not plan well. But I can fix it. It's going to take me some time, I guess, but I can fix it.
You can fix it. You can fix it. And even if it's just one step at a time, you know, I know last week we talked about, you know, savings, and we talked about how to start saving, and then to also how to make sure that the bank that you're using is paying you to save. So we went over that as well. If you are on the line with us tonight and you weren't here with us last time, make sure that you go to the YouTube channel and listen to that segment, because we showed you exactly where to go online to find some high interest yield savings accounts and things like that. And that's one of the things that you have to make sure over the years, if you're banking with someone like these brick and mortar buildings and things like that, you know, a lot of times they cannot pay you what you need to get paid on your savings because their fixed cost is too high, right? So you want to find a high interest yield savings account that's going to pay you at least 1 to 2% just to hold your money, right? So what you're telling me is that you hadn't done that yet.
And I just tell on myself.
Are you telling on yourself, or you saying you haven't done that yet? Okay. That was part of the homework for this set this week right here. So were you here last week? Were you here last week?
I was.
Or the week before last, on the 10th, So you were here on the 10th. So that means that you have to go in and find some high interest yield savings accounts. Very important. I'm going to hold you accountable. Yes, I am. You know, I'm going to hound you until you get it done. And now, if you're going to keep your money liquid, right? If you need to keep your money liquid, then that's the best way to do it, because you'll be able to get to it without having to, you know, go through any hoops. But as this segments and as these segments grow, we're going to start talking more and more about how to place your money and keep your risk low, but get higher returns, such as 7% and 8%, and all the way 10 to 11% on different type of products that you can do that. There's a slew of them on the market, but we're gonna look at the best rated ones out there just to give some education, okay? And that will help you in the future with building up for your retirement, okay? So, but what we're doing today is I want to make sure that we at least find a connection of why we haven't done it so far and how to fix that. So when we start jumping into get into this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you say, oh, I want to do that, then the mindset has already started to be nurtured. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure that we talk about how we got to this point. All right, now we know where we are. Let's fix it.
Right.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the next part and the money making parts, right? So thank you so much for chiming in and giving us your insight on that. Has this segment been helpful so far?
It has. It has.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time? All right, it looked like we have, yes, Miss D, I had a great time. Thank you for giving me insight. Okay, I see that. Just glad to be here. Sorry I'm late. No problem. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you, Miss Harvey. I appreciate that. And let's see. Yes. Thank you so much for giving your testimony about being 6 years old. That seemed like that was hard. Yes, it was very difficult to go through that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be transparent because I wanted people to understand that it's not just, you know, being, you just jumped in some place, you have to grow into a certain place. And so, we all have experiences and we all have hard times and hardships. And so I just want to make sure that we were all together in this and understand that we all have a past. We all have things that we've had to get through. But now that we know that we have it, we don't stay there. The thing is, you don't want to stay there. You want to know what you need to do to move to the next level. And that's what we're doing with Wealth Wednesdays. We're starting off at the foundation, scrubbing away at those parts that hurt us the most, and then being able to say, okay, yeah, I went through that. I understand, but now I got to fix it. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. This is the avenue I'm going to be on. I'm going to be able to take my vacations. I'm going to be able to build my dream home. I'm going to be able to do all these things because I'm changing the mindset of how I operate my money. So thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and start closing out. Oh my goodness, I actually did it. I was trying my best to do this thing within 45 minutes, and I actually stayed within 40 minutes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So I'm getting better at that. So, but we are actually here again on July the 8th at 6 p.m. Central Time, everyone. And once again, if you have not had the opportunity to get connected with me, make sure that you connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook at Call D Curry, and Instagram is Demetris Curry. And then, of course, if you would like to do a separate meeting with me about your personal finances where we can really dig deep into your personal things, make sure you get in contact with me via phone or either at office@demetriscurry.com. This particular segment here, really, I just want to be transparent and letting people know that I too have a story and I'm probably experienced some of the same things that you've experienced, but we have to make control of our own situation and then change things. So go ahead and start registering today for the July 8th segment, and that is going to be at 6 p.m. Central as well. And I have here listed the registration link just in case you don't have it, and it will also be on all of the social media platforms. So I want to say good night to everyone. Thank you all for being present here with me today, and I look forward to seeing you again on July the 8th for Wealth Wednesday. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.